ladies and Germans, how you all doing? This is Con Or coming to you with another Company of Heroes 2 game. This is a 1v1 between Stark and Brosras. This, of course, is Stark right over here. He's putting up an infantry company, and just before we get too much further into this, I'm embarrassed to say that for some reason, this is the second and a half time that I'm trying to record this. The first time I recorded it, I went to render it after the fact, and it had absolutely no audio whatsoever, so I was a little bit stymied on that one. But hopefully that'll mean that I don't miss too much on this particular map. Stark is bringing to the fray Elite Troops Doctrine, a Lightning War Doctrine, and Mechanized Assault Doctrine. So he's really looking to bring in those Tigers in the late game. And I won't spoil the ending, I'll tell you that much. Brosras, but actually, you know what, I will tell you that he picks a commander that's got a Tiger. Brosras, on the other hand, he of course is playing Soviets. He's bringing to the fray Tank Hunter Tactics, Armored Assault Tactics, and a Guard Rifle Combined Arm Tactics. So we could see several call-ins for these later two opportunities here. And I think those would be really, really good options. Unfortunately, instead, though, it seems that Brosras is going to go with a Trip Conscript opening, looking to inject a lot of manpower into early map presence. Worth noting that these Grenadiers are getting into a foot race against these Combat Engineers and do manage to take away this house before the Combat Engineers get into there. That is one of those things you don't often see very often. They do manage to take out a model on retreat for those guys as well. Usually what you end up seeing, you see the Eastern player pick up the strategic point and the Western player either take this house or this church right here. Either one of them controlling the center, I won't say crossroads necessarily because there's not too much road on either side. But nevertheless, a solid start for Stark to force back infantry so soon. There's also going to be a very early MG42 coming out for Stark. However, this MG42 is all alone, and you will see an excellent miniature flank coming out here from these conscripts. And although these pioneers are right back here to kind of support the MG, not a whole lot's really going to be happening. I mean, these conscripts can fall back right to this house, and I believe they do so. Yep, there they are, right in that hunky-dory little log cabin of theirs. But the delay has allowed the Germans to take their fuel significantly before the Soviets. And with a slightly greater map control for the Germans, it does seem that Brosras is not entirely too sure about how to go about this. He does go and build himself a special rifle command, immediately going for a clown car right after that M3A1 scout car. Definitely it could be a solid opportunity for him with those dual machine guns, as well as the infantry transport capacity there. Worth noting as well that these combat engineers are going to pull back, not looking to get involved with any kind of garrison play, and if the Germans can hold on to this garrison right here, well, that's going to be bad news bears for anything that's got a Soviet red star on it. By the same token, though, it does seem that the Soviets are more than happy to kind of charge in and try to cut off the German supply situation, and indeed you will see the Germans are having forced to run across negative cover. Though they will start to engage the Soviets pretty evenly, and this is just kind of like, tanks at 20 paces firing back and forth. But it's a pretty bad situation for the Grenadiers to be in, and Stark, not wanting to lose an early infantry squad, backs away with one trooper left in the squad. On the western side, a Grenadier is forced back by newly upgraded combat engineers and the scout car. If he's lucky, he'll get away. I won't spoil it. Does he get away? Does he get away? He will get away. The scout car believing he has bigger fish to fry up in the north. And frankly, with this machine gun right here, as long as this thing doesn't utilize armor-piercing incendiary ammo, yeah, he will not be able to push back this truck before it is largely too late. But again, the Germans do have the Soviet fuel decapped. They're going to continue to have their own fuel for a little bit longer yet. And will be able to pick up the Soviet expansion fuel before the Soviets take their own. Now, in the meantime, we have seen that Stark has gone up to battle phase 1. Brosras is still remaining behind on his tech. And after this scout car takes a Panzerfaust from this little group of Grenadiers right here, it's forced to retreat back to a moderately safe area or risk losing everything he holds dear, which is a significant investment, let me tell you. Because that is an early 15 fuel that could be much better spent, at least in my mind, in attacking up to the support weapon compania, or even going for the tank of the battalion command and maybe a quicker T-70. We are also going to see a unit of penal troops coming out onto the fray, more than capable of fighting most German infantry to a standstill, at least in the early game. These guys are going to be very, very solid and kind of helping Brosras contain a little bit more of his position on the field. And I always wanted to know, these guys actually have SVTs? I can't never really tell. Yes, they do. They have SVTs. Those things are gorgeous, gorgeous rifles, really. Very, very rugged ones. But the Germans don't seem to be too particularly terrified of this, and indeed you will see this conscript squad moving down to the south will drop a model just before ducking into this log cabin over here. And realizing, I guess trying to push for this point here again, and realizing, oops, wait a second, there's grenadiers right here. And although the scout car fully repaired starts to come in, trying to put pressure on everybody else, I can't help but wonder if this is a little bit more of a liability already. And if you're building a vehicle that's a liability at 6 minutes in, you might consider going a different direction with your army composition. The Leichter Mechanized Company is going to get built as well. And a fairly quick, not super quick, but a fairly quick 222 comes out for Stark. And that by itself is more than able to shred this light car if he comes across, each other's tracks. And in response, what happens? Well, the penal troops pick up their own flamethrower, and we're going to see ourselves a bit of a flame war happen down here in the south. Pioneers and penal troops deciding that flaming each other is a nice way to spread the warmth of the holiday season. You do see only one trooper remains, for Brosras' penal lads, and they're forced into a very, very quick retreat. These combat engineers in the south are going to be trying to hold tight with these pioneers from the Germans, but don't manage to do so, and indeed you do see them dropping a couple of models right in front of them. And I think this right here is probably a minor misplay in my mind. These grenadiers come down to the south as opposed to kind of going over here to the northern reaches, trying to get up and around the scout car. I will say this embankment right here is always a little bit difficult to get up as an infantry squad. And with the 222 on the map, you have to worry a little bit about the Soviet immediate prospects. And the 222 announces itself with quite a bit of Sturm and Drang, forcing one conscript squad into retreat and kind of trooping around trying to find another one. More targets of opportunity. Brosras has picked up the anti-tank grenade package, so he's more than able to deflect the 222. And if he frankly had a support weapon compania, he'd be more than able to negate the 222 entirely. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Nevertheless, the Germans don't have any medic bunker up, I don't see, or this one, here's one right here, but it's not been upgraded just yet, and won't be for another, about 15 seconds or so, even allowing HP to be retaken. 222 in the meantime announces his presence in the north, and this penal squad is really not in a good place right here. 2 models left. They're forced into a retreat. This 222 could chase them down. I don't think he's going to, though. It looks like he will pick up one model, and only one of them is left. But he will get away safely as more targets of opportunity come in. And I'm wondering if Stark realizes that there is anti-tank grenades out on the field, because that 222 gives them a fairly wide berth, and that's always a good thing to see. A little bit of a hiccup here. Stark doesn't quite get those medics out maybe as soon as he could have. And these grenadiers might take a little bit of negative attention from the scout car right here, but with the 222 in support, you don't have to be too worried. You did, of course, see a little while ago that a support weapon compania is now out on the map, and with Brosras going the anti-tank, the tank hunter tactics, I was going to say the anti-tank tactics, but the tank hunter tactics, he does have a fairly good opportunity to take out this 222, should he get units close enough to it. Now, the problem with that, however, while he can go and upgrade his conscript with the PTRSs, and I think he actually is doing that down here in the south. Yes, he is. So now there's 2 PTRSs on the squad. Is that these conscripts are still I won't say aren't perfect in teching well, but don't tech particularly well in the later part of the game. Their staying power is mitigated a heck of a lot by the fact that they can't shoot for beans. And that is a big, big problem. And indeed, you will see these conscripts ducking into this house, trying to stay out of the line of sight of this 222 for a fair bit of time. In the meantime, this scout car continues to be a little bit of harassment. You will see that overdrive thing is never really going to get used, mostly because, well, why the heck should you? 222 back to the middle part of the field. Conscripts are going to put down some anti-vehicle mines, which sort of backfires. Just a couple seconds after they get them down, it explodes because of the 222's autocannon shots. And that's really unlucky right there. Had these mines survived, I don't think the Germans had even seen them. And this 222 would be forced to go across it. There's not a whole lot of heavy crush it does. At least initially. The squad of combat engineers comes out. Medics are now done for Brosras, but Stark's got his own medics. Oh no, Brosras got the medics out yet? I didn't see that actually. Oh yep, he's got medics out. So both players have their medics out in the field. But Stark, I meant to say, is up to battle phase 2, and that is more than a bit of a problem for the Soviets, because battle phase 2 means there is soon to be, I'm sure, a heavier tank on the field. We are going to see in the meantime a couple of Grenadier squads shifting up to the north. Unfortunately, they are in negative cover, which means they're going to get butchered if they hang out there in the open.
We are losing a sector.
One decides to get away a little more deftly than another one. And these Grenadiers are coming down as well, trying to push away the Soviets, and succeed in doing so with those PTRSs. Now, the lucky thing I think that's going to happen for the Soviets is that these conscripts are not going to get picked off, even though they really are begging to be picked off. And I think it's just more lucky than anything else that the Germans don't have these guys really going over a true S minefield. In the north, we are going to see conscripts though backing away, getting shredded by Grenadier squads, and yep, there goes a squad drop right there for Brosras, earning Stark pretty much first blood. Because despite losing a good number of soldiers already, he has not been taken down to zero in either way. And Brosras, in my mind, here's where he's starting to lose the control of the game. He's down 165 tickets already, and he's not teching up at all. He's not going for Tank Heavy Battalion Command. He's not going for Mechanized Armor Compania. And that Grenadier throwing out Panzerfaust on this scout car means that any kind of light vehicle play is going to get shredded. And finally, there we go. We're going to see that Tank Heavy Battalion Command coming into the fray. But it's awful late. It's a 12.5-minute T-70 at absolute best. And even then, that's not even a fully completed building just yet. Big problems, I would say. In the north, in the meantime, as well, these engineers being caught out in the open. And one model left on them. Does a 222 pick them up? I do not know. He does decide that it might be more important for him to pick up the scout car. No, he's going to go after this poor combat engineer, and ka-chow, there goes the scout car. So Stark's doing pretty well. His 222 has got 2 stars of veterancy on 10 kills. The only real committed anti-tank presence on the field is this PTRS squad in the north, and while that's great even for sniping off a little bit of infantry here and there, it will not be enough to completely take out a fully mechanized presence from the Germans. We'll see in the meantime, there has been a mortar brought up by Stark to kind of put fire onto this church to force the machine gun away, and probably a very good decision there. As Stark continues just to put on a clinic, he's taking the northern posting, he's taking the northern, VP. He's got both fuels for at least another 15 to 20 seconds until these conscripts take that away. The T-70 on the field is going to be pushed back by this PaK-40. It is worth noting, however, though, that these combat engineers are wise enough that they can pick up CS mines in the southern part of the field, forcing a little bit of wastage out from Stark and not getting a full utilization on it. And right now, Brosras is down a fair bit of army supply as well. Losing a couple of those squads has been a very big loss for him. And really, until he gets that super late game where he can get something like that anti-tank bombing run, I don't know how well he's going to be able to fight back. People into the north, however, are going to get chewed up a little bit by this Maxim. It's always such a cute kind of machine gun, even though it's kind of completely worthless. And with a 222 in the area throwing rounds into a T-70, the T-70 decides it's probably a better idea for me to back away. And without that support, these Grenadiers will flank this Maxim. Oh geez, and a mortar shots as well. I didn't even see that before. So yes, things are coming up pretty far with Milhouse in terms of Stark's prospects. He has lost his fuel to the south. He's going back to the Soviets. But he's got a P4 coming onto the field, and he's been up pretty much at least 2-0, if not a trip cap, the entire game thus far. Unluckily enough, though, for this machine gun, he has no stars of veterancy, which means that those armor-piercing rounds are not going to be used. By the same token, though, these T-70 is not going to do a whole lot of loss to the machine gun. Pack-40, on the other hand, really should back away, and you do see that this mortar crew, as well as the Pack-40, are now way out in the open. And you'll see the penal troops hopping out in just a second to put pressure on top of them. Sniper squads, in the meantime, have come out for Brosras, that's that scout sniper team, which looks sort of vaguely kind of Empire-ish meets British from the Zulu War kind of uniforms. But in any case, that could be enough to take out support weapons, but I don't know how well that's going to go in a pitched battle. Usually snipers are great if they are a long-term strategy. You get them quite early, you rush them out, and then micro them into victory. But when you're behind manpower in the first place, and you're behind resources in the first place, I'm not sure the sniper is really the best option. And indeed, we're even going to see this P4 coming down to the south. The T-70, I don't know if he realizes what's coming his way or not, but you know, let's get ourselves a couple of good shots here. I dare say this T-70 is going to buy it. It's going to be pretty darn close if he doesn't. And yes, there he goes, unfortunately. Let's get ourselves back up into an actual camera position here. And with the death of that, the Soviets do not have any, I repeat, any anti-tank on the field. You are going to see an Su-76 coming out, but that poor lad is not going to do particularly well against highly mobile and much more numerous Axis armor. And you do see already that that armor is really going to go and continue to be a massive issue for the Soviets. This demo trap down here could have done a fair bit of damage. It wouldn't have taken it out, but it could have done a fair bit of damage that would have allowed a follow-up assault by Brosras. But as of right now, he's got less than half the army supply of Stark, and Stark doesn't seem to be losing any speed on his war machine right now. He's lost 5 tickets, but that's absolutely it. And under a trip cap, yet again, the Soviets do not have a whole lot to really do anything about this. Grenadiers will come under fire from this Maxim. Question, can it get both of them at the same time? Yep, it's going to be a tank and spank kind of tactic, forcing back this machine gun already. Losing a model, the poor gunner drops off super quickly. Now LMGs on those Grens, which means that's a delicious edge of firepower being given to the Germans in these firefights. P4 is going to come up though, see his Tormentor, and discover that, hey, you know what, maybe I should fire at that. No, he decides instead he's going to give him a chance by throwing rounds into that church after the conscript squad with PTRSs. Not entirely sure why, and instead the Su-76, instead of pursuing, will decide to kind of slide around, start throwing down those supporting barrages instead. Disappointingly somewhat, does slam around into the 222, but P4 is still here, and while these conscripts are fighting the good fight and putting some hurt onto the Germans here, he's losing a scout sniper in the meantime, and he's taking away one of the major connection points they have to the rest of the map. Now, to be fair, he's not going to get it. That Maxim's going to be more than enough to allow them to not lose the position, at least completely. Decapped, yes, but not completely. And Stark just continues to kind of chill here, man. He has no reason to be too concerned. We are going to see, of course, unfortunately, that P4 has charged forwards, and forgive me for missing that, folks, but between the Ziscon and the Su-76, that will be a dead P4. But while the Soviets would seem to have a legitimate fighting chance in this game, they are down almost 375 tickets. 380 right now. Wait, can I do math? 375, so 380 pretty soon. And the Germans still have an absolute ton of veterancy to very, very little on the part of the Soviets. Soviets, for the most part, are really back in this kind of two territories right here, the base sector and even branching out finally to the north. And though this Maxim continues to go back into this house, that mortar is now still in position again to drop rounds on top of it. And we're probably going to see that Maxim back away. Yep, there it goes. P-Grand's coming back out again. These guys don't have to worry too much about even upgrading and sacrificing some firepower for those Shreks. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of Soviet armor play on the field. And indeed, you see these guys just rushing forwards. All they have to do is just come in nice and close with his STGs. And the Penal troops are getting shredded. They lose one model already, drop a ton of health, actually more than that, drop 3 models pretty darn quickly. That's a terrifying place to be. Su-76 trying to throw rounds over here to the east, maybe looking for that house. I can't say for sure because that barrage is always so inaccurate. But one more round, we'll take that house down. But 495 to 75, I don't know if Brosras is just blanked on the fact they should be capturing out VPs to get ahead in the game, or what. But Stark has finally decided to go for Lightning War, which means he can't go and upgrade his troops. With the G43s, I'm not sure why he necessarily would want to when he has the LMGs already. He could call in the Stuka-Close air support once he gets the munitions for it, which is not too far off, all things considered. And he, of course, does have that Tiger tank. So if the Tiger tank comes onto the field before there's any other Soviet action, that could be a bit more than just a tiny bit of an issue. One more mortar round comes in just after the Maxim ducks out of the house. Luckily for that group right there. Indeed, the only armored vehicle on the map of true consequence is this Su-76, who just continues to blithely throw rounds into infantry squads. There we go, an artillery barrage or two. That will evaporate one poor German. You see the rifle just spinning up in the air. But coming in pretty quickly behind that, that Pak-40 can't slide forwards if this Su-76 doesn't beat a hasty retreat. Instead, he's going to throw rounds, again, these armor-piercing rounds, trying to take out infantry. It's like, you know, trying to get a mosquito with a shotgun. Or, to quote Confucius, using a cannon to kill a mosquito. Luckily for him, the Pak-40 misses the first round. And his penal troops right here could be enough to really push back said Pak. If they are not forced to wait, never mind, there they go. And that's a Tiger tank on the field. So, Soviets are already down a ton. And, yeah, their stuff is desperately undervetted up. And this Pioneer squad right here could do more than enough to kind of start taking on this gun crew. You just see it right here, starting to get waxed. Oh, the Su-76 is right here. I wonder if the Pioneers would be too concerned about that. Heavy crush is not too much of a thing necessarily on the assault gun. I will laugh and say though that having a short barrage right here will take out 3 engineers, or 3 Pioneers, kind of humorously to me. This guy's really considered just backing out of there pretty darn soon, but he's not going to. You know why? Because he fights for the fatherland, and he is just a fearless individual. Pak does get decrewed in the center part of the field, and the PTRSs, along with this Maxim, are going to take out the 222, but who cares when now you have a Tiger on the field? Gets recruited in here in the south by conscripts. One round blows them away. But Pak is now out in the open should the Germans want to take that back. And 23 minutes and 15 seconds into this game, it's pretty much all German on that one. In the north, we will finally see that these penal troops are back in action. They're trying to go and take the position here. But an Su-76 running straight into a Tiger is not a very, very great idea. In fact, you will see him back away desperately, try not to get hit that last round. Barely anything left on that tank. Or in the tank, if you know what I mean. Nice little bit of a pun there. And yes, all we have left is just penal troops kind of running around ineffectually, one by one, and getting picked off by that deadly 88mm cannon. And there they go, that last round, taking out 3 of them, and, you know, Misha, Yasha, and Vladimir get taken out. They die together. They're like bad boys, man. They don't just ride together, they roll together. Or die together, or something, whatever bad boys do. But I would not be too happy if I were Brosras right now. He doesn't have nearly anything. Yes, he's got these PTRSs. Yes, he's got an Su-76, but that would have been more helpful aeons ago by comparison. The last thing he can really do at this point is just kind of a little bit of an FU charge, which seems to be sort of what's going on right now. He's got this taken out of a blockhouse, but then somehow one shot just wipes out that entire building. As Maxim's really got nothing left, he's got 3 stars of veterancy, but if anybody goes into this house, that would be very, very bad.
We are losing territory.
Yep, and Brosras realizes that it's over, and he decides to surrender. So, after a mere 25 minutes, Stark takes out Brosras in a super, super quick game. Well done to him. Maybe a couple of things could have been a little bit better about Brosras' play, but nevertheless, it never, ever diminished the victory that comes out. Thanks so much for tuning in, folks. If you have a game, of course, you want me to check out, I've seen like a lot of great material from you guys, and I want to continue seeing it. So please email me at conorgaming@gmail.com. And I would love to see more replays. We have a fresh one coming up on Saturday, and a couple more after that, so we'll see how that goes. But thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys all next time. This is Conor signing off. Take it easy.